All right, let's see if this worked. Come on. I think it's working, but it's
going.
Okay. Hi, friends. Yay. Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to SJM-Along. I think we're technically past the halfway point now, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Or we're I think we're at the halfway point.
Oh, okay.
For how many books anyway? We still have lots of pages left to read, that's for sure. But according to my bullet journal, where I made a pretty thing, we've done one half of it, so we're halfway through.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty intense, that bullet journal. I'm looking at that.
Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 14 books. So,
okay. So there we are, halfway through.
That we fit into 12 months because, it's pretty crazy.
Woo.
Crazy. But anyway, it all of a sudden decided to be hot here again, so I'm sweating my lady balls off. But that's fine. It's good. It's good.
Everyone's the whole country is dying. I got in the car today and it was 10103 in my car. And I was
well, you live in Los Angeles, so that's a choice you made.
She's like, that's what you get.
I live in Fargo, and when it's 95, it's I don't want it to be that hot. I'm dreading going to Texas, even though I'm excited to go. I'm I don't want to go in September.
Yeah.
But we have our friends popping in.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, friends.
Already? What do you mean already?
Halfway.
Oh, halfway through? Yeah, I know. It's
Isn't that nuts?
September tomorrow. Yeah. It is crazy. But at the same time, it's we still have a long way to go. It'll be interesting.
Pages.
Right. And it'll be interesting to see who's here or who randomly joins. There's someone who she binged all the way up to where we are this month. And so she's I'm caught up. I can be with you guys. And I was wow, way to go.
Yeah.
So there'll be people who catch up to us too, and
it's commitment.
Yeah. Well, and I also think when we get to Crescent City, there'll be people who are waiting for those because that's where they're really excited for. So we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. Also, back to school really hit a lot of people, so they're can't be here today. We'll have Jackie joining us later, but I believe there was a soccer game or something.
Mm-hmm.
You're further than that now because of this book. Nice. Mm-hmm. Nice. But, we'll wait a little bit to give some people some time to hop in. What is everyone reading right now? We'll take 5 minutes, but not too long because we know how long this will be, but we'll give people some time to get on. So
you mean outside of the SJM thing? What are we reading on the line? Yeah. I'm reading Karen Rose. I'm making my way through my romantic suspense. So I'm reading Every Dark Corner. Nice. So serial killers, FBI agents, detectives, mystery, equal balance, romance, and suspense. So I'm loving it. I'm happy.
I hope some of hers were more romantic. I read 3 of them. I read 3 of them. Mm-hmm. They were too much of the serial killer for me, is what I don't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The book is big. Yeah. It's not that I don't mind a serial killer POV, because I do I like criminal. I like a serial killer POV. Sure. But when I read hers, it was literally every chapter, there'd be big chunks that are him. And I was I don't want to be in his head. And I would know who it is the whole time because she knows who it is. Anyway, I'm sure not all 500 of her books are like that because she's.
And it's interesting because some of her older stuff is not where I'm not clocking it. I'm not figuring out who who the serial killer is. It's really embedded in there, and I feel it's a good balance, and it's a nice departure from what I typically read. So I don't mind it. It's a mix up. So that's what I'm doing. What are you guys doing? What are you guys reading?
Rachel?
I'm currently reading Love Flushed by Evie Mitchell. Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It's a good one. Chronic illness rep.
Chronic illness. What's the chronic illness?
Crohn's disease. The heroine has Crohn's disease.
Yeah. Intense.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
What?
No. I'm saying that's nice. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. I'm reading another Teresa Medeiros because after I read
That's pretty.
Hellion, yeah, this one's like orange.
Ooh.
I love that.
And the hero is blind. He was a naval officer and he was blind in an accident. They're not sure if it's permanent or if it was like damage that will heal, because he's only been blind for like a short time right now. But his they hire this nurse for him who's like a young nurse, and he's, you know, it's one of those, he's kind of beastly because he's like chased his nurses away, and she's like, she's worked with soldiers and she's worked with children, and she's like, do you think you're the first charge who hasn't tried to scare me away by whatever? So I'm liking it so far. There's no audiobooks for like any of hers, but I like the physical mood, and like her writing is really good. Like I say, like I don't notice writing much. Like I either do or I don't, and if I do, it's usually because it's bad.
Yes.
But the Whisper of Roses was so well done, and that was her third book she wrote. And this one is her, like, I don't know how many, but this was 10 years later. And I still think the writing in Whisper of Roses was more like romanticized. Like it's a Scottish Highlander one, where this one is not Regency, but very close to Regency time. So like it's not written in the same lyrical way, but it's still like, it's really funny because she's just like, I'm not putting up with your shit. So he's like, oh, okay. Well, then I'm going to make you be my nurse and do every single little thing that I want. So then he tries to scare her away by like ringing his bell every 5 seconds. Fluff my pillows. Will you fluff my pillow? Oh, my tea has gotten hot, cold. Will you warm it? And she's like, sure, I'll pour your tea. Anyway. All right. What's everybody reading here? The Heir Apparent's Rejected Me. Oh, good one. Nikki the Driver comes out on Friday. I just ordered my physical copy. Love Kate C. Wells. She's great. I read the arc of that one. Ruby Fever. Love it. Oh, yeah. The Wolf Hotel. They started doing those.
Yeah, I heard they were good.
Heartbreaker. Yes, Karen wrote. She says, I haven't read her in a while. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're reading AMP. Oh, good. Got some homework. Love it. It has been very cute, Athena. And I actually was like, I had to go to the gym and put it down. And I was like, oh, I want to keep reading this. And I was like, that's good, because when we get done with this, I'll want to go back to it. So I'm excited about that. But alrighty. Okay. Well, oh boy, I'm almost like scared to dive in, because everybody who's watching, what? We're going to change. Yeah. We're going to change up again kind of how, where are my notes at? Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Sorry. I'm like, where are my notes? I made them all. The last couple we've went through like chronologically, but you know, those of you who joined, it was very, very long the last couple times. And we're going to try to keep it not past 2 hours this time, just for our own sanity and also for my internet in my house, because I usually start getting kicked off when it's going on so long. So what we're going to do this time, we still will have a bathroom break, most likely, just because that was actually very nice to have a little bathroom break there. But for the first half, we are going to go character by character again, just because that's kind of how the first half of the book goes anyway. You know, we're skipping between everybody and everyone's kind of doing these different tasks and everything. And then the second half, when we come back, we're kind of going to start basically from where part 2 starts, but where like the final battle is, because that's what's most important about this, is how it ends, so that we actually have time for some theories and connections, because kind of ran out of time after 3 hours last month. So that's my plan. We're going to start with we're going to start with how everyone liked this, of course. I mean, I know we're kind of past that point because we're very far into this, but let's just start with some, my computer is acting up. This is not good. Is it showing it? Oh, okay. There it came up. Let's start with overall feelings for everybody. How did our first timers feel? How did our second timers feel? We don't have the first timer yet. Jackie's still on her way. So
yeah, we've all reread it, right?
Yeah, we're
okay. Reread. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, my computer's being really slow. Am I like delayed to you guys?
Maybe like a little, like teensy bit, but like it's nothing. It's
not noticeable for me.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Hopefully it will catch up. It could be too because I have two computers up. Because I have this and then like I have my notes over here. So
okay, maybe. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But anyway, of course, if I black out, know that I'll be back and just keep going.
We'll hold it down for you, Jen. We'll hold it down for you.
Yeah.
Right. You'll probably be like, oh, I have a chance to talk now. Jen's gone. It'll be great. I agree with what Stacey said here. I listened to this one in one sitting. It's not that that's unheard of for me, but the last few I've like kind of let myself. Well, with Akamaf, I didn't either because I was really depressed. So I read that in a day as well. So I did a self-care day and read Akamaf. But the other ones I've been kind of like spreading it out so that I didn't finish it all in one sitting. I could not put this down. I started it like the night before and Jessen had started reading it. And I was like, oh, I want to read it with her. And I was done by 8:00 the next day. Like I read it in like one sitting.
Yeah, and I feel like with this book too, the pacing is overall just smoother than the previous books because as much as I like Queen of Shadows, I think is still my top favorite, and this is my second favorite book. But Queen of Shadows, you got to get to page like 200-ish, and then the pacing really picks up, and it's like amazing. Whereas with this, it's just a really nice, like steady build of like what are these characters up to, what's bringing them together. And I feel like in that way, it's easy to read it in like big chunks at a time, or like with Jen, reading it, like listening to it in one sitting, because like it just keeps going. Like there's no like, for me, there's no like dull moments. It's just a very like steady pace.
Agreed. I also liked watching the secondary characters weave into the story that came in from Assassin's Blade and how she connected with them from previous times and how they're coming in to being integral part of the story. And I felt like you could really see, like up to this point, it was I'm not going to say information dump, but we were getting a lot of information and like chess pieces on the board moving into position. And now you're starting, and you were like, how is this all going to play out? What does that all mean? And now you're starting to see that come to fruition. And you're starting to see like, oh, I see how this connects and why we needed to, have these players involved. And so I was real happy with the pacing, the timing. I was just in it every second, it wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't too fast. It was just right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree about the info dumping because sometimes with her writing, she can dump a lot on you. And like with this book, I feel like it was really, really well done.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Mm-hmm. I found that
is totally fair.
I was really focused on the relationship. I forgot how much, and somebody made this comment. I can't remember. It might have been you, Rich, but I can't remember who said it, how much I really liked Elide and Lorcan. I was like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. Like I was more focused on that than I was on Rowan and Aylin's relationship.
Yes.
The first time around, I really focused on that. And this time I'm like, give me some more Lorcan. I want to see.
Me too. I was right there with you. First time around, I was so about Aylin and Rowan, and this time around, I was just like craving moments between Elide and Lorcan for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's the toxic grump though. Like he's the toxic grump that I love in so many books. I mean, I tell you, I've said it, I'll say it again. Sarah has every archetype of man that I like to read in romance is in there somewhere. Yeah. Between all of her series, she has every kind of man that I like. And this is the one where he's like the assassin archetype, right? He's the assassin he's sent to find what he needs. He's going to take it and he'll kill anyone who's in the way. And then he sees this person who seems physically weak, but she is literally mentally strong. Like she fights that one being with that. And hold on, no, we're going to keep talking about this, but I wanted to start with them anyway. So we'll start with them.
Let's go.
They have the most like separated story through the whole thing. So they're a good place to start because we can talk about their like whole arc from where they start to when they meet with everyone without it crossing with everyone. But I love that, like, it's very interesting because like we know, and I remember the first time I felt so much dread about their storyline because I was liking them so much, and I was like, this isn't gonna go well for them right now.
Yeah,
I knew it wasn't gonna go well, but he does so many sweet things as that like grumpy assassin person. You know, he's not fully this, but he also reminds me of the psychopath character I love, where they don't love people but this person and they try to figure out this person, right? Like he makes a bath for her. He uses his powers to ease her steps all the time. He's always using a part of his power to ease her step. And he washes her clothes. Like,
yes,
he does those things where like he's this grumpy assassin jackass who does these precious things but would be like, don't look at me, I'm not doing anything nice.
Yeah.
Well, he's like washing his clothes. Like, I love that type of person, or that type of what he is, you know. So anyway, I love that.
Yeah, and I love these character types, because we've got Lorcan, and I love this shit in romance against like someone who's seemingly like sweet and soft, but she has this strength to her.
She does.
That is like incredible to me.
Well, shit she survived.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
And she notices her subtle strength is the fact that she sees everything. And I like that I honed in this time before I recognized that she's seeing the things that we don't see. But then I noticed this time it's like the little inner voice says, see. That's like her witchling inside of her is like sight. And she picks up on things that other people don't. And because we underestimate her, people write her off. And therefore, she is more dangerous than any of the other ones because they're focused on Lorcan as being like a deadly male. Whereas you got a little Elide with her limp over here that's sizing you up and it's going to take you out. And you don't even see it coming, you know?
Yes.
But he knows. Like, he knows, because that's part of it is like he sees what she is while he's watching her. Like, he knows she has something going on, you know? It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I thought was interesting is not necessarily about Elide and Lorcan, but, you know, I was trying to analyze and think about, and I wonder what you guys think is the motivation behind Lorcan's hatred towards Aelin. Like, is it because she's a powerful female? Is it because she has that swagger and she's so like cocksured? Or like, what is it about her, you know, outside of the plot line that makes him hate her? Because he really dislikes her. And I was trying to understand and see what that, you know, and the fact that both of them are so very similar to one another, Aelin, it's almost like she's a female sort of version of him in some ways.
In some ways,
but such a connection with Elide, who is so the opposite of them, but they are so very protective, you know, like, and I don't know. I was just thinking about that dynamic and trying to kind of pick that apart.
I think, they have a very interesting dynamic. I wonder if a part of it is because Aelin came in and like fucked up the cadre. I wonder if that's part of it. And I think, when two people are as similar as the two of them, they are both very strong personalities, and I feel like they're gonna butt heads, you know?
Yeah.
For sure.
I agree. I think it's a lot of things, because I think it is, he sees her as a threat to Maeve, and like Maeve doesn't like her. He sees that she messed up their dynamic that they have, but he also already was jealous of that because like Maeve didn't want him the way that she wanted the other, you know, others. And I think it's just a lot. And he's that thing, like, he's a very old being, like a lot of them are. And Aelin's this like young whip who is just like fucking everything up and is like I feel ready for me to drop a thing. He's not as cognitive. He feels like a Draco, but a very old one. Sorry that I'm relying on this to Harry Potter, but I have to. Where the thing of just like, you think you know shit, but like I've been around, and you just come in, you're like brand new to this and think you're gonna like whatever, you know, it's like that. And oh my God, we have a troll. We have a troll. You're dating my precious SJM time. I'm just kidding, Charles. I love you. Sorry, everyone. He's all like popping in, like he cares about SJM. Hello, my friend. We have to stay focused.
You're still rolling from
I was just like, what? There's a troll in my comments.
Right.
Stole Rowan from him. That's interesting. That's interesting, Stacey, because also though, wasn't Rowan the right hand? Like, wasn't he the right hand? And now there's an opening.
Morgan had been considered to be her second, but I don't know if that was only when Rowan was out of the picture.
Right.
It seems like it.
Because then when Lorcan then, which happened to then, like Karen is the one who takes over from there.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
But I mean, well, and it might have even been like, I would have to remember, but it might have even been that Lorcan was, because I believe Lorcan's the oldest.
He is the oldest.
He's the oldest. But it could be that she wanted Rowan and like didn't want him. But I don't mean like want, it's like she had plans for Rowan. Well, what Lorcan didn't know is the kind of plans she had were horrible. Like the things she was like,
she has plans, all right. Yeah.
I don't feel like Maeve really has like sexual desire. Like she may use sex to control
power.
Sexual desires anymore. Like she doesn't. No.
Yeah.
She looked down on her sisters because they had sexual desire. Well, love for people, you know, like she doesn't mean that.
And I think there was at one point, Lorcan says that he trained Rowan for like several centuries. And so that's how he was able to predict a move or an outcome that Rowan was going to decide. It's because it's what he trained him to do. So I think that also speaks to their hierarchy in terms of where they are. There's like this mutual sort of subtle respect, but at the same time, Rowan is like, if you mess with Aelin, I'm going to take you out. And Lorcan is like, try it, but I still respect you. But we have this delicate sort of dance that we're doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of history. There's so much history between all of the cadre. But I think specifically Rowan and Lorcan when we're looking at those.
All right. We're already getting in trouble with ourselves. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I love them.
I adore this couple. Yeah, Elite and Lorcan have like taken over my top couple spot in this series.
I think it's funny. They've always been up there for me. When I finish the series and how it ends for these two, which we like, they were my favorites. They were all of their stuff in the last book. I was like, they're my favorite. Like, I love Rowan and Aelin. They're great, but these couple always were my favorite.
Yeah,
because I was like, they're my favorite. I mean, Manon and Dorian, they're cute.
Yeah.
Get to them, but
there's something else about Elite and Lorcan for sure.
Well, and they're like, because I know we're not to this yet, so sorry for people. But like, they're not fated mates, but like Rowan and Aelin are. So like, that's its own archetype of like, we're fated mates.
Right.
It's one of the very few that like isn't, because Sarah mostly everyone she puts together, it's because they like have to be, you know.
Right.
But in this series, there's not as much of that. So anyway. Who should we go to next? I know. Let's go here next, because this is the other like biggest story on its own. So Manon's kind of arc through this. So she, you know, after she at the end of the last one, you know, she'd sent a lead on her way to do that, and then she had to go back. Sorry, where did I'm on the wrong page. There we go. And then Erewhon now has like given up the body of what's his face now. He's given up his body and sends them to attack Rifthold, and not just the 13. Some of the other, like a bunch of them go, and she's able to rescue Dorian, but also Rowan's getting sent there. I know this is where it's like we have to pull people in, but like Manon's there first. She does the rescuing. She kills the Yellowlegs. And this is when we finally get the break. And this was kind of fun. I'd like to know from people who are the first timers in the comments, how were you at the tipping point with Manon? Because Manon, like, when it seems like she's going to go along with this, you're like, this is the last straw, Manon. Like, if you do this, you can't be redeemed for it. Like, if you kill Astrid after
right.
Too much now. You know, like we're starting to love you, but like this is too much now. And when like I just remember the first time I read this, and when she was fighting with her grandma like on the edge of the cliff, and I was like, she's gonna jump off the cliff, and her breakfast's good. Like I was so excited for it to happen. And I'm so glad that she made that choice at that point, even though it costs her a lot. And then where she ends up at the end of that arc is she ends up dropping into the water right in, like Abraxos just whoop, drops her right in front of people and he leaves her. Like I remember him like leaving her the first time. I didn't know. But Abraxos is a good boy and he goes to get help. But anyway, so then she gets dropped with our people. So what do we think about Manon and what we see happening with her and everything?
She has some badass moments, especially in this first half.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know about you guys, but when I read this for the first time, I never thought she was even going to remotely go through with killing Astrid, right?
Oh,
like we didn't think this was going to happen, right?
No.
So I was just like the
suspense.
far.
That was the grandmother going too far finally.
Yes.
Like that's what it was. It's like the grandma is like, you're gonna, and she's like, nope, I claim the power to kill her. You're not gonna do this. But anyway.
Yeah. So finally getting that breaking point. I remember reading the series for the first time. I wanted that breaking point to happen so bad in Queen of Shadows. I was waiting and waiting because that whole last part of Queen of Shadows, when they're all in the forest together, her grandmother's there, you know, I was waiting for something to go down and then it didn't. Yeah. And so then when it finally happened in this book, I was like, yes, finally.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because I remember wanting her to like become the matron. Like that's what I wanted to happen. But I think it's smart because knowing that she's the Kraken queen, however they say it. In the audiobook, they said Kraken, right?
Kraken queen, yeah.
Knowing that she's that, it makes more sense that become where she's going and not trying to completely change these people who've been doing what they've been doing.
Sure. Yeah.
It makes more sense to go try to find a new, you know, because that group, they've been so entrenched with Erewhon and doing his bidding. Yeah. Like, we don't even want them to switch. Like, we don't want them. It's better for her to go get her birthright and go find new. So I like that that's where they're going. And that Dorian's going to go, too. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that moment that I sort of saw it as symbolic when Abraxos dropped her in the water right by the cadre, or they're not the cadre, but right by them. Like I saw that as like the breaking and cleansing moment. That was the moment that I saw Manon being free to then make her own choices and make her own decisions, free from her grandmother and free from like the confines of the past. And now she can decide how she's going to move forward and what that's going to look like. And so like I thought that was a really cool moment, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this probably won't take us too much. So then we have what's happening with Dorian. He doesn't have too much in the first half of this because it's mostly he gets rescued by Manon. He gets rescued by Rowan. Rowan and him are headed back to the crew. That's what's going on with him. I feel like is still like he's got a lot to do with. You know, he was just along for the ride for the whole last book. So, you know, but he has some big revelations, which, I mean, I guess we could say this. Like, he doesn't even fully know this yet because a lead tells him right at the end that, like, oh, yeah, by the way, you're the only other person who can do this. If Aelin can't be rescued, like, you're going to have to be the one to do it. And it's kind of also like Aelin hasn't had the chance to share any of what this is for him. So it's good that, like, Manon went into the mirror with Aelin because otherwise no one would be able to pass that info on, you know?
Right.
Like if she had, you know, because she doesn't get to like tell him what happened, and Manon is the one who will have to do that. So,
and I kind of in the first half saw Dorian as like still grieving and still kind of trying to figure it all out, like to make sense of everything. I think that there was one part, you know, where he said, you know, I'm a king too, or like I like it was almost like don't discard me.
Yeah.
Like I'm relevant, like, you know, and I have thoughts and I have, you know, and I'm powerful in my own right. And so I think that what he's going to become is going to be pretty powerful and intense, but it's almost like cool your heels over here, Dorian, for a while we get all the chess pieces together, and then you're going to come in at a, you know, a secondary part, whether it be another book that hasn't been written yet or a later part in the story, but I won't.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And he has to have his like training now because he only ever was
yes.
Yeah, like he had a little bit of training with I literally can't even remember her name. His girlfriend who died.
Oh, Sorsha.
Yeah.
A little bit of training with her, and then he was trapped by the,
Sure.
you know, and so he hasn't ever got to be in control and learn. So
yes,
there's definitely a lot of potential for Dorian still. So
now, am I misremembering this? Didn't he say to somebody, like, can you train me? Can you teach me? And they were saying, like, for him to ask, am I mixing up stories with another book? Like, I thought that he asked somebody to, like, can he,
yeah.
He did, right? Who would,
I don't remember.
talking about
Who?
Rowan, and I remember Rowan
yeah.
saying that, like, I remember him saying something like, you know, I don't know about your kind of magic. I can just teach you about controlling magic in general. And he brought up knowing somebody who, like, might know more about his kind of, like, but Rowan isn't, a specialist in his crazy ass magic. Like, Dorian's magic is, like, insane compared to, like, a lot of them.
Yes. You know? Yeah, because Rowan asked him while they're traveling to meet up with everyone at Skulls Bay.
Okay, that's right. Because, again, I was like, he was, like, saying that it takes a powerful, or a strong individual to, like, to acknowledge what you don't know and what you knew and know what you don't have, and then be able to reach out and say, help me.
I loved that moment.
It's such a great male bonding moment, and putting aside ego. Like, I felt like it was done really, really well, and people that are hurting, and Dorian, especially because Dorian was hurting over Sorcia. So that is like a very vulnerable moment that he's making himself, to Rowan. And it'd be hard.
Yes.
Yeah. We can talk about Rowan now. If you can't tell, like, I'm saving Aelin, like, for the end because we're going to go into everything, but we can talk about him obviously in relation to her because we finally got to get spicy in this book. So the spiciness happened for Rowan and Aelin. There we go. The classic, let's fuck on the beach and turn the beach into glass because we're fire and ice. Like, I love that. Love it so much.
Yeah.
So iconic. So iconic, for sure.
I mean, it's really cool, like, because with how part of, like, Aelin's power works is she burrows into her power, and if you don't, like, release all of it, you could cause problems. So being able to have different kinds of release is very important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like that. I also like, I know we're not in the book yet, but the idea of, like, burrowing into your power so reminds me of other stuff in other books.
Yeah.
I've been holding it, Jen. I've been holding it. Like, I've got so many thoughts, so we're going to wait. I was like, we're
not playing her. Anyway, Rowan, I feel like he's always high strung. I was going to say he's very high strung. He's always high strung in these books because he is strategist. He's very paranoid. He very much did not want to love someone. He very much is denying the fact that they're mates, not denying that he doesn't want to be with her at this point, but he is denying that they would be, like, true mates because he's like, I already had one.
Yes.
Or find out that's a lie. Yeah. But it's like, to be fully mates with someone, he's like, that is a terrifying thing, especially when we're going into a battle like this, because I don't want to lose another mate, but also I don't want her to go through what I felt like I went through.
Yeah.
But I think it's really beautiful in this. But I also, part of the thing with, like, Aelin being so secretive with secrets, which again, like, we'll get to her in a minute, but I feel like we don't get to see them, like, talking things out much, because anytime she's doing something, she's planning it alone. And I literally can't, Jessen's not here with us, but I know this is how she feels about it. She gets so annoyed that Aelin doesn't share stuff with us.
Yeah.
Which, by that, she means Sarah J. Maas isn't sharing stuff with us because she wants to be clever with reveals. But, like, there's ways to show that Aelin is talking with people without her telling us what they're saying.
Yeah.
And that's something that Sarah does do, and everybody. And that's, like, I try to say, I'm like, that's just how she tells her stories. Like, every author that we love has their way that they tell their stories.
Yeah.
But in that regards, I feel like it leaves a little bit of a space between Rowan and Aelin that I don't want to be there, because we don't get to see them talking through stuff.
You don't,
like,
get to see them
in, like, Heir of Fire, because he's keeping stuff. So then we don't get to see them talking about stuff. So.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't let me see them be equals. And when I read this the first time, I got my back up. I was so upset because I was like, and I felt like what you said earlier, Jen. Here's this young whip of a girl who's going up against Rowan and Lorcan, these old generals, old beings that have been to countless battles, know what they're doing, going against Rolf, and she's not going to plan it with them, and she's not going to seek assistance, and she's got all the answers and all the information and all the cleverness and all of that. Like, I don't buy it. Like, and I was like, and when you added that like cocksure attitude, I was just like, ooh, I don't like you. You are too self-assured. But this time around, it didn't bother me as much.
And yeah, also, I agree. It didn't bother me as much either.
Yeah, it doesn't, especially because I'm okay with like the main character not being my favorite character when it's fantasy. Like I felt that way about like Wheel of Time when I was reading it, and like I don't need the main character to be my favorite, especially when it's third person point of view anyway.
Sure.
In Avatar, it's a little harder if you don't like Feyre, and that's why a lot of people struggle, because you're in her head, or you know, you're just like you're in her head only. Whereas in this, like, I get everyone's point of view. And so I'm still rooting for Aelin, but I don't have to love her the most. And so, like, I like her. I think that she is doing the best she can, and this is the way she works.
Yeah.
And I know that it's going to work out, so I'm okay with it. But when my friends reading it for the first time are like, oh, I just hate her, I'm like, I mean, that's fair. But I love her. And I understand why people love her. And she's a person for the people. Like, she literally... she has all the contingencies because she wants every person to live that can live. Like even Manon, like she could have defeated Manon back then, but if she didn't, she wouldn't have and I'm totally skipping ahead. We're talking about Aelin. Sorry. She wouldn't have people coming from the desert and people coming from here and the 13 coming from here if she didn't save people that she could kill.
Like, and we learned that lesson later on when go back and look at the Baba Yellowlegs situation. Baba Yellowlegs has a wealth of information and knowledge that is lost now that we will never be able to regain because of like an impulsive decision. I'm not going to say it wasn't the right decision, because clearly Baba Yellowlegs had her own agenda and was going to, whatever. So that needed.
And she didn't have the power to save her. Like that's the difference too. Like Manon and her were fighting, but she had the power to save her. Whereas like Baba Yellowlegs had the power and like she didn't, as Selena have the power to do that. But you're right, like that's the risk you take if you kill that being said. Anyway, okay, so we were talking about Rowan.
Oh, one little thing about Rowan too. The other thing I thought that was really cool is I liked when they were in the cabin and Aelin wakes up and she's like in flames and on fire, and he just takes it in stride. And I love her like inner dialogue, and she says, the only man that I can, or male that I could be with, is somebody that I don't have to coddle and I don't have to make sure that they're okay and give a title and do all this stuff and can wake up and I'm in flames and it's like they're not going to flip out and it's going to be okay. Like
when he's ice and water.
Yeah, to balance that out.
He literally puts it out. Like it's beautiful. Oh my god.
Without any like this is like, it's just like having a nightmare. Like you just roll it over, you wake up in flames. Okay, we'll deal with it.
Yeah. Right. How many fantasies do we read where that stuff happens and it puts a huge wedge between the couple? Like that happens, like that literally happens in my like favorite fantasy now in the second one. Spoiler, there's a whole like, I'm gonna hurt you with my nightmare stuff. Like that happens all the time.
Yeah. And even Lorcan makes the comment when she like uses her flame again and Lorcan uses all his power to shield. Looks up and sees Rowan like striding through the mist and walking over to her, and he's like, and she's like, he's like, that takes a strong male. Like he's like, what is he going to do with somebody that has that much power? And if somebody got a hold of her and put a collar on her, like what that would mean. So Lorcan recognized that, that Rowan is the only one that would be able to like withstand that,
Yeah, their partnership is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. This is mostly going to be a bunch of gush because how great is Lysander? Her amazing things that she can do, her sea dragons and her animals, and I just love her so much.
That was one of my favorite things about rereading it this time was that I annotated it both the first time and this time I was underlining new things.
Yeah.
And so this time I could like see the clues of her looking at these pictures of sea dragons. And and I was like, oh my God.
Yep. Smart. But then she can modify it to be what she wants. So she like is like, oh, I'm going to give myself like harder scales and be able to swim faster. But then like when she like gets stuck because like she uses all her power, so it's like I'm gonna be stuck as it, like, so. And
she's also one of those characters to me that, like, between her and like Alid and like Lorcan, these are like standout side characters.
Right.
Of
I mean,
series.
that's why they get a cover, man. They're beautiful. They're so beautiful. My beautiful couple.
Oh, I love it. Oh, thanks for sharing.
Yes,
I know. We'll show them all off. There's our gang, everybody.
Yes, that's so cool.
I just love the vision of like when Adian is talking about Lysandra, and like Lysandra is like when she's in her leopard form, she just lazily looks up or throws a paw out, or like I just love that vision of her, just like a feline, kind of like, you know, it's just so cool.
That's like her favorite form, and I love that so much for her. She loves being a snow leopard.
She means what can't Lysandra do, because she's in camp.
Yeah. Lysandra is the MVP of these battle scenes. Absolutely.
I love it. Well, because like then when we have like both the wyverns and like we have dragons in the sky and dragons in the sea, like it's amazing. I just love it.
And I love that she altered the form to like to match the wyverns with like the spider silk and then like the butter tail. I was like, Lysandra, make your own thing. Like, you know, that was cool.
Would be so cool. And
a literal genius. Like, wow.
Well, literally to go from having to be someone's tool and plaything to the baddest bitch, the most powerful, like, I mean, in the most powerful of like, she can literally make herself physically large.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to go from having to be this like beautiful, you know, and she said, she's like, I would be an animal all the time because no one would mistake how powerful I am. No one would, you know, be able to abuse me like this, you know?
Yeah, hers is my favorite character arc, honestly, truly. Like,
well, I said this back in, like, when I read Queen of Shadows again, like, I had forgot, like, that she never really hated her at all, like, that it was all a game. Like, I forgot that it was all, like, a game.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't pick up on the nuances of, or miss that conversation. And to know that she just so desperately wanted to be Selena's friend, but was like put in this place and like knew that, well, there's nothing I can do. She like hates me now. I just have to, you know, it's too like, oh.
I know. It's gut wrenching. It's just.
It's just, so she's amazing. And I love that. I think it's even said when they have the argument with like the lords or whatever. And she's like, I made Lysandra. And they're like, that doesn't exist. And she's like, I'm queen. I said so. And they're like, and she's like, Lysandra, you're going to have a land when this is done. Like, you are going to be a lady and have shit. So don't worry about it. And I was like,
that's the least of what she deserves is her own.
Really? I was like, sir, do not get all up and think you can do shit. Okay, just sit down.
Right, that's when I got mad, was when he was going for Lysandra.
I was like, don't you come for Lysandra's stuff. Like, it's okay. Like, fuck off, man. Like, you haven't looked through anything. Okay. Moving along here. Okay, so we have Adian. And again, just going up until I have a different feeling about him in the last 50 pages than the rest. But I feel like I don't get as much out of him in this one because his is kind of like, obviously he's starting to have more feelings for Lysandra in this one. But obviously the big revelation is going to be like meeting his dad in this one. Yeah. Which is, I don't know how I feel about it. I know how I feel about it in the last book, but in this book, like in the last book.
Right.
But in this one, I don't know. I'm kind of just like
confused.
Adian starts to have a lot of tantrums in this book. Some of them have to do with his dad, because I'm like, there are bigger things going on than than how you ended. You know what I mean? Like,
and I'm confused. Like, help me understand, because maybe I'm missing it. My understanding is that his dad wasn't in his life at the request of his mother, right? And she sent him away and said, you know, to keep him safe or keep me safe or whatever, you need to go away and don't have any contact. And he's like, at your wishes, I will do that. So Adian resents him and hates him. But I don't understand, like, would he have preferred that he endangered them? And because his father is what's the father's name again? Gabriel, thank you. So would he rather Gabriel like infringed on their life and followed them around and potentially put them in danger? Like, what is he really angry about? That he wasn't there for him, or the reason why he wasn't there for? That's what I'm not getting.
Yeah, I think Adian has a lot of pain from his past about not having parents around.
Yeah.
And I think there is still a lot of pain and resentment about this whole blood bond oath thing that he has not worked through. It wasn't mentioned much in the book at all, but I think there's just like a lot of pain that's building up, and so we're seeing him just lash out at like a lot of like small things, it seems.
Like, and he's like attaching, he's like, this is a good thing for me to be angry about, and it's not necessarily just about that, it's about all this other stuff, but this is a good focal point right now.
Yeah, that's what I mean of like, he doesn't look great in this one. That's what I mean. It's like I love him, of course. Like I do. I love him.
Yeah, I love him too.
But like he was the one, and he has so much like survivor's guilt because he thought Aelin was dead. Sure. And then she's alive, and like, oh, this is supposed to be like his, queen. Like he's gonna be her man, and then Rowan, okay, not me. And then like, I have a dad who abandoned my mom. And then actually your mom told me no.
Right.
That she didn't want me around. Probably because he was in Maeve's, I'm assuming that's why.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Especially because like his mother would have been a part of the terracing court, right?
Yes.
So that could have been why too, where it's like, I don't want to like, we want to stay away from Maeve, and that could be an in that she had. So, and like Gabriel is, I mean, we'll see more of that, but like he just wants, he's like, we're immortal beings, right? Like we have time, he's probably thinking we have time.
Yeah. I think that you're right. I think the biggest thing for Gabriel was that he wanted to keep her safe from Maeve. And so when she said stay away, that was probably how he could balance the two things without going against the blood vow that he made to Maeve, but at the same time, protecting the woman that he loved,
Yeah.
Ian said something to the effect that his mom died to save him. Yeah, he did. And I don't remember what that was.
Exactly what, but that's there was something there.
Well, did she have to sacrifice herself so he could escape the night? Because he had to escape the night that it all went down too.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't remember.
Maeve was trying to take out everyone who could possibly be an heir, and like all of that.
Yes.
And like he was able to get out.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it.
And I think that Adian just feels things very deeply, because like this time around, it really impacted me, this battle scene where Lysandra's the sea dragon and she is exhausted. Things are not going well for her. And Adian is freaking the fuck out. And he's truly realizing, oh my God, I have like these crazy feelings for her.
Yeah.
And then when she's like, washed up on the beach, and he's just like, I love you. I'm going to marry you. Like that's the end of it.
That's right. So powerful. That's right.
And he was like, and not only does he say that, he says, I don't care how long it takes. I will wait until you're ready. It doesn't matter if it's today, tomorrow, or in 20 years. I will wait for you.
That's right. And that's the reason. There we go. That's the reason we love him, even when he has a brain part later on. That's right. I was like, I know there's a reason I love him so much. What was it?
What is it? Help me remember.
That speech always takes me aback. It just like knocks me on my ass. Like I'm just like, oh my God, Adian. Like,
and also
those are the kind of quotes. Like, those are the kind of quotes when you see them, you're just like, yes, I want that story.
Yes.
Yeah. And also remember, that was the time when they were afraid that Lysandra was going to be stuck in that dragon body. Like, she was tired that she was going to be able to make that transition back. And that's how he sort of brings her back from the brink of that,
Well, there's a lot of like in those two as well. Because they both are kind of like a second tier to someone. And like, they're okay with it. It's not, like Lysandra isn't upset to be in a servant role. Especially now that she's like helping Aelin. Like she is like, I am your woman till the end. It's very like Count of Monte Cristo. Like I am your girl forever. like that kind of thing, you know. And Adion's like that as well, you know. So
absolutely.
This is a great point, Benmar. I think he feels like his loyalty is taken for granted. That is fair. And you know what? He's not wrong. I mean, I don't think it's taken for granted, but I could see why
his feelings are very valid. He's got a lot that he needs to work through with the people that he has problems with. He needs to have a good long talk with Aelin. He needs to have a good like. There's several people.
Everybody needs to have a good long talk.
Yeah.
With Elena, we're gonna get there. We're almost to her.
Oh yes,
almost to her.
Yes.
We're doing really good with our timeline because we're almost done with people before we get to Aelin. Who else is on my list?
And not to forget, like, Lysandra at the very end, and like the role that she takes on, like you said, Jen.
That's in the back. That's the whole half hour. That's the whole end. That's like,
I'm like,
I know. The whole last hour will be that part. Well, I meant leading up to that. You're right. Okay, let's talk about these guys.
Okay.
What we can up to it. Because they show up at an interesting time, right? Because we first run into them with Rowan and Dorian is who we first run into, right?
Mm-hmm.
First run into them together.
Yeah.
And we're sent to come after Lorcan because what Lorcan did. But they also want to help, even though like they do want to help, but also they're like, well, if we see Lorcan, we got to do what we got to do because it's our oath, you know.
They got to figure that workaround because they like to work around the blood bond,
right?
You know, still obey her orders, but at the same
time,
they're
trying to fight against it. Yeah,
right. Because I think they've seen like they're pretty interesting to me because Lorcan is very much in the beginning, like he knows that she's bad news, but he's unfaultingly loyal to her.
Yes.
Until he now has transferred his loyalty. But he came on this whole mission because he feels like he's the most loyal. So he is doing it for her own good. That's why he's able to do it.
For me, yeah.
Whereas, which in doing so, he is interpreting a blood oath the way he wants.
Right.
But then Gavriel and Fenris, they also do the same thing, but they're, I think, less bought into her. Like they're not as in love with her at all.
Yeah.
And wasn't one of them like molested by her? And I'm using molested.
I think it was Fenris, and then Gavriel only joined in because of Fenris.
Right.
You
know. So
and
like
is Collis Gavriel's brother twin? Who's the twin? Has the twin? The one that's constantly in bed with Maeve. So that's her bedmate. It's Collis or Ken.
Isn't it Karen?
No, it's not Karen.
Karen is just the sadist. There's another one that starts with a C. That is her current bedmate. Like
and I think it's Gavriel's twin. If it's not Gavriel's twin,
it's Colin or something, like Callan or something.
Connell. Thank you, Athena.
Connell. Thank you.
Literally, he's a blip. I mean, I'm sure I'll remember him in KOA because
you will. Yeah, we'll
talk about him in KOA. But
he was mentioned like one time, like in this book.
Thank you, people who know. You know, I got a list of 20 names, and that's all I got room for. So the extra people, I'm just like, don't care. But thank you for knowing that. So they're interesting. Again, I have more about them once we get to the end part. But I will say, like, for characters who we don't see a lot of in this, some of my favorite moments in the last book involve both of these characters. Both Fenris has his moments because he's the one who's there with Aelin, and then Gavriel has some very powerful moments with things. So I very much love that even characters who were on the 6th book of a series will have an impact in like a last book. Like the way she does that is crazy to me.
It's so good. Yeah.
Hey, Carrie girl.
Hey.
Hello. So okay. I think
we can move on then because I feel like there's not much to say.
I did want to mention the other times we're seeing them. I'm sorry, and then I think that's pretty much. Then we've built up to it.
Yeah.
We're seeing them be evil. Don't know too much else to pass about that. I'm trying to think which revelations we get like before
The only thing I remember with Erewhon is like the whole thing at the temple in
Yes, thank you.
When his like eyes are shown through that dude's belly or something. Like there's some crazy shit going on.
Yeah.
Like he shows his eyes.
That's the one thing about Aelin before we're at the end is how we're seeing her like power up stuff start coming. Like she has moments of her power, like where she's able to burn the person alive with her breath, and where she's able to do that. And they have does he show up before that? Because she has, I think Elena shows up once before the end because she shows up and is like, you need to get to this, like get to this place and do this thing.
Right.
And that's when we're at the temple and Erewhon shows up in the body of the overseer. So she's the burn overseer. Oh, and then when we're on our way, the fires are being started and they're being said that Aelin's the one who's starting them and then putting them out to try to look like so Maeve is trying to show discontent on the way there. So anything else that like we missed leading up to that? I'm trying to like look through. I mean, obviously I'm very proud of her because I had so many pages of notes before this point. I was like, Jen, you don't need them. It's fine. Like, don't go beat by beat. So, Diana, who's that?
Oh, yeah, Deanna.
Sorry.
The goddess.
The goddess of the hunt, yeah.
Yep. I remember that whole event.
We also find out, because Elena, when she comes, that's when she says that, because that's where I picked my name this time, is Malia the Firebringer.
Yes.
That is her ancestor.
Yes.
So who's Deanna? Let's go back to that. Sorry.
She's the goddess that takes over Aelin's body.
Oh, yes. Okay.
When she's chained on the ship. And literally melts the chains and like, that is, I will say the first time I read this book, that scene was very confusing to me. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way, but this time around I was like, okay, now I get what's going on. You know, Aelin has the word key on her person. And so that's how Deanna is able to come through and take over her body. And
yeah.
But Deanna's not supposed to be bad, right? But Aelin puts her out.
Yeah, she has to push her out. Because Deanna, like, they say something that, like, Deanna's kind of just been watching and biding her time to see if she could, like, do something, I guess. Okay. And so this opportunity came up, and Deanna took that opportunity. And then, you know, we see that, like, she turns her power on Skulls Bay, and then that's when she pushes her out, and, like, Rowan tries to help as well.
Asking what she wants.
Right.
That's interesting. I don't know.
This is a confusing part of the story.
Do we not know yet? Like, do we get told later, or we don't know?
It's later. It is later. Okay. We don't know yet.
So the answer is we'll find out. So you're not supposed to know. Okay, cool. But now we know that she can be entered by this goddess.
I mean, that's scary. That's absolutely terrifying.
Which is scary. Like, if you have it on your person, you could be entered by.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So, because right after the Stone Marsh is when they get back on the boats and when Manon gets dropped off too. So that's how we like all converge.
Yes.
And now the only people we don't have yet are like Elite and Lorcan were coming up. And that's when we're going to get to the end. I'm looking through my notes to make sure I didn't miss out. And then we'll.
Do you have us talking about, I wanted to talk about Rolf and like the map that's on him and how he got the map. That seemed pretty relevant.
That's
I don't remember.
Interesting part of the story for sure.
We'll talk about that as the last thing before we take a break. So because they know that they need the map and they know that Rolf has the map. And so we get to Skulls Bay. She does her whole pretending to be Selena and Lysandra pretends to be her, and then we were like, let me introduce you to her. And so they're both in the same room, which I know some people rolled their eyes, but I love it. So, hold on a second. I know you just came in, Carrie. The whole second half is going to be the ending and the theories. I know you missed the first half. So we're kind of talking about the characters, and then we're going to do the final battle and like the theories and everything. So you haven't missed any of the ending stuff. Oh yeah. And so then like he reveals that he is the map. So, and the way that he got the map, he did not wish for. So it was one of those, you made a deal with the devil to get what you wanted, and then they took something that was precious to you, which was family, his mother and his sister, to get it. So maybe explains why he's a little bit grumpy these days.
Yeah.
Tough one. And again, like, okay, so it's the map to what? Like, isn't it whatever you like? Is it a changing map? I can't like.
Yeah, it change. I mean, the map will show him things that he wants to see.
Right.
Like, if he's looking for, let's say, a particular item, or I remember the map showed, like, I feel like the fleet in the Gulf of Oro, for instance. Different things like that. I guess it's a map of just like their world, because it's a map of what he knows and wants to see
at any given time, right? And it's changing depending on what's going on. But I thought also, didn't a vlog put the map on him, and that's why Rolf has a hatred of the vlog? Isn't that how it got on?
They didn't say that it was a Valg. They just said that it was like this dude that he met. Like, I just remember Rolf telling the story, and it was just this man that was like, hey, I could give you this, and then Rolf doesn't know what he's saying yes to, really, right? And then his family gets taken away from him. But it's not made clear, is this being a Valg? Who is this?
Right.
So there was also the point where Aelin asks about like the oracles among them, and that's when something that Fenrir says sparks a memory, and she runs away and is sick, which is obviously the moment where she realizes like what's going to go down at the end, because that's when she asks to talk to Lysandra alone.
Nameless is my price.
What?
Wasn't that when Nameless is my price? I remember her throwing up because she was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm reading of this because it's like Gabrielle has met up with them. Manon has, like, this is after like Manon is with them. She's been captured. They like convince Aelin to like let her go, that she's here to like, she's not going to run away or anything. But then Aelin goes down and is questioning her. And she talks to her about Baba Yellowlegs and like what Baba Yellowlegs had said.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's something that Aelin understands. And then mixed with something that Fenrir says, she gets like freaked out.
Yeah, I think it's the whole thing of like the sacrifice, and Nameless is my price, or what is it? Yeah, and like I think it's her putting all these pieces together, and then she talks to Lysandra because she has to talk to her about this plan. Yeah.
And then it's like, and this will be when we get to the final part. Then when we find out what Elena's like what's happening, that's confirming that she's right about what it will be and everything.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. So then the only part then I think is like where the mirror comes from. I'm trying to find that, because that'll be, here we go. It's in the chest that they get it.
Yeah.
That's at the is that the Stone Marsh? Where is it?
Yes, Stone Marsh.
Stone Marsh. Yes.
She opens the chest and there's no lock, but the Eye of Elena opens it.
It's the mirror.
There's the witch's mirror.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So they carry it to the ship, and they're going to go into it.
Yes.
So that's where we're going to pause. Everybody's together, pretty much. Elide and Lorcan are running there just as it starts, but everyone's together. Manon and Aelin are about to go into the mirror, and Maeve's forces are converging on us. So let's just take a quick, we'll just do 5-10 minutes real quick, take a potty break, get a drink, and then we'll come back and we'll do the final battle and everything, and we'll wrap it up, okay?
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
Alrighty. Let's try to get through this. Let's see how this goes. There's so much with this. Oh my gosh.
So much.
Right.
So much.
Right. So let's step into the mirror and let's talk about what happens in there in just one chunk. Like we'll do all the revelations about that. I didn't make a card for these. I only made like the revelations thing. But let's just talk through what we see when we go in. We find out what Elena did.
Yeah.
What do we think about that? And Nehemia. Like
there's a lot going on in this mirror scene. Like there are several scenes happening. Yeah, for sure.
So they use the Eye of Elena, and there's a lock in there. So So Elena used it to put a seal on the mountain of Morath. And she distracted Erewhon.
Yes.
Distracted Erewhon with Gavin, and he's injured. And she knows they can only use it once. And so the gods tell her that she fucked it all up.
She fucked it up, because it was supposed to be that they would get to go home as well. They would get to go back to where they came from. You know,
and
past
stuff
books
him
have
out.
alluded to creatures that got stuck here. And these gods and goddesses got stuck here as well. So, yeah.
And they're pissed because they're like, you blew the one chance that we had to take him, to kill him in our own land or world or whatever, and to get to go home. So now your entire bloodline is going to be cursed to deal with it and make right the wrong.
And it's very interesting because she didn't trust her elders, right? Because didn't her dad knew what was supposed to happen?
Yeah, they I feel like
but
her
they
dad
wouldn't tell her.
Gavin knew what was needed to be done. Was it Gavin or was it Brennan?
It was Brandon.
Brandon kind of told her hey, don't do this, but he didn't tell her everything, but he was like calm down, take some steps back. And Elena was like, I'm just going to do what I can do to save, sounds familiar, save as many people as possible in this life, in my life,
Yeah, Jackie. Yay, she's here.
Jackie.
Oh, you're
muted.
You got to take off mute. You're on mute, or is she frozen now?
Can't unmute. Your mic isn't connected. Oh, there we go. Okay.
There we go. Yep.
I was trying to unmute you, and you didn't have it set up.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Perfect time, because we're starting the final battle. So we did talk about individual characters. So at the end, if you want, you can tell us your favorite characters when we get to that. But we're starting with Manon and her going into the mirror and what we found out in the mirror. And then we'll do the final battle and everything. So we found out that Elena fucked it up. And because she did, Mala's line will have to bleed. And then it will have to be her gifts that forge the lock again. And Elena has to be the one to lead them to slaughter. She's got to be the messenger.
And the thing that also found
will have to give, hold on, almost done. I'm reading it. She will have to give every drop. They will have to give every drop of their blood to do it.
Yes.
Seal the lock. And then that led us to Nehemia,
to the scene with Nehemia,
who finds out that it can be either Dorian or Aelin. And she's like, how will I know? And she's like, well, you might not. You're going to have to look after both of them. So, anyway.
I thought it was interesting that it was also how they brought in Rhiannon Kraken, that she had a part to play in this as well. So it's all of the people that have come together, Manon and the cadre and Aelin and all of them have a piece to play. And it keeps bringing me back to that line where it's a game that began a long time ago, traditions of what was done then. So it'll be interesting to see that now, because we have all these queens. We have the Kraken, the last Kraken queen. We have Aelin, that's a queen. We have Elide that has her role or whatever. They've all come together and have a significant role to fix this mess that Elena created.
Well, earlier too, we skipped it, but when Gavriel and Fenris meet with Rowan and Dorian, they said there are forces unknown that are drawing everyone together. They don't know the bigger picture.
Yes.
But they know that there's something pushing everyone here. To something that's going to happen. So.
And to that very point, I think Rowan says that if Aylin's fire goes out, it's a flame that will like make all the flames and all the worlds and everywhere will be extinguished if that like happens. You know what I mean? So it goes to speak to a broader concept, you know, if we don't make this right.
Right.
Yes.
Remember that part?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like it's easy to hate on Elena. I totally get it. But then as I was reading, I totally forgot that like she doesn't get an afterlife once this is over.
Yeah.
She has given that, like she's forced to give that up. She will never see Gavin. She will never see her father Brandon. She will just disappear.
Yeah.
Like she has truly suffered for 1,000 years too, and like
because she was trying to save people. Like she was just trying to do good. She was just, nobody told her the bigger plan. Let this be a lesson, Aylin, who won't tell Adion anything, that sometimes when you don't tell people stuff, they get you under their bonnet that they want to step in and do shit because you won't tell them anything.
There definitely are similarities between Elena and Aylin.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Jackie, what do you think about this? I have another section to read, but what do you think about this?
I'm not gonna lie, I read this while at a softball game, so I was like watching, reading.
Yeah.
I liked how she brought everybody together. Because honestly, I wasn't expecting it in this book. I wasn't expecting everybody to start coming together. What I was expecting was literally them meeting up, like being in the same area and it stopping. Like that was the cliffhanger I was waiting for, and I was not expecting that. I was like, oh, she's giving me, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Let's bring this on. So I enjoyed how she did it. But yeah, that was my feelings on it. I had to fly through the end. I had to fly through the end. So
you're fine. Well, we're kind of walking through because we're gonna walk through this entire like battle at the end wherever. Okay. So we're starting with like we know like why Elena had to do this. Now like we're seeing the different steps that she did. So we see that Aylin was supposed to die the night that it happened.
Yes.
So Elena saves her. She gets her out of the water and she puts her in Arubian's hands. Like she puts her in his hands. And Elena wanted Aylin to be able to like grow up first and to be strong. And she knew that she'd have the best chance if she was away from that for now. So it's very interesting because, I mean, in ways like, we've already talked about the creepiness that was Ruby and Hamill. Like, he was like a father. He does train her in a lot of the things. He also is a creepy motherfucker, and we don't love him because he did horrible things. But he was a good person for her to be with at the time that she was.
Yeah.
He learned her, like, manipulativeness, and, like, she was a spoiled princess. Like, and there wasn't anything wrong with that. She was a fey princess with wonderful parents. She was spoiled. And now she is in the Assassin's Keep, and all that fun stuff. But
I guess it's just that, like, that trope in books, like, this person is destined to do things, but let's not tell them anything. Let's keep them away.
Yeah.
Like, I get why, because it makes for really great drama at the end and all these reveals and everything. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, if you would have just told this to them, in the beginning, they could have been training since the beginning.
Right.
And they wouldn't be like flailing around like a crazy person, not telling your family stuff.
And I love that, Jackie, because they all, like, how they justified it is that one part where they said, we forged the lock, but it's not a lock. It's really a pool of mirrors so that whomever that chosen one, Aylin, can actually go back and see this moment and understand what the undertaking is so that she could decide and, for herself, if this was something that she was going to take on, not like she ever had a choice anyway, but because it's all right. So she could see it all for what it was and know what she's doing and why she's doing it and how it all sort of came about. So it's almost like, I wonder, and we can talk about this later, what that pool of memories is being used for later, since it houses so much and it's forged for a purpose. Yeah. Bringing together, because it was Rhiannon Crocken and Brennan and Elena that made that. and housed a lot of information there for.
Well, and the last word key.
Say it again.
Yeah. The last word key's there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so that I think, okay, so we find out how Nehemia helped, and then I think that's all that they do there, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. And then they head back to the battle. Yeah. So, meanwhile, while they've been in there, we've been barely holding our shit together. Alid and Lorcan have arrived. You know, we have Fenris and Gabrielle who are supposed to attack, and then Rowan's like, you'll be starting a war if you interfere. So I have negated. I've used two of my superpowers. He was like, that's only going to work for so long. And he's like, I don't care. It's working for now. And they're like, if she sees us, we may have to turn on you. So we're just warning you. That's might not last for long. And so we have all the boats coming. Thankfully, Rowan's family does decide. And we have the 13 showing up.
Yes.
We have everything converging.
That's when Adian eats his words, because remember, Adian went off on Aelin and was like, where are all our allies? All our stuff, and what have you been doing? And then all of a sudden now it's like, there is the sea of allies that.
This is the one where, like, she could have told, but she does she does the whole, like, well, I didn't know if they would show up, so I didn't want anyone to be disappointed. And it's kind of like,
girl, you can tell your circle. Tell your people.
Yeah. Like, they need to know.
Yeah. You know, it's that thing of, like, we know it was a dramatic moment for this, but you could have said that, but
you could have told them.
We're just pushing him to the end. So
why do you have people if you're making all the plans and all the decisions and setting everything up, you know?
When I read this, I just pictured the Avengers movie, like Avengers Assemble, they're all coming back. I was like, yes.
With like massive armies.
Yes.
So they went in the mirror, like down on this like beach or whatever, right? It was down on the beach or somewhere on the shore. And Alid is like there because they come out of the mirror and Maeve is holding the knife.
They went into the mirror at the Stonemarsh Temple. Well, no. Wherever the chest was, I think on the boat.
No, they carry it down. Yeah, they bring it down.
Yeah. But then when they got out of the mirror, it teleported them to the shore.
Oh,
okay. That's where they needed to be. And then Alid was in trouble. Because even they were like, wait, how did they get there? Like,
that's right. Because Lorcan had her go, like, she went to like hide off to the side.
Yes.
That's where Maeve went because she knew she needed to do that. Got it. The person who did these like notes doesn't explain it that well.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't me. I'm on the wiki. It wasn't me who did the notes. I'm looking at the wiki right now. Okay, so she's holding her captive, and we start finding out all the evil things that Maeve has done, which included making Rowan think that he had a mate and letting him love her and get pregnant and then murder them, and make him feel horrible forever, and telling her that he's actually your fated mate and you could have lived forever happily, but I'm going to kill you before then.
Right.
She knows that she has all the word keys and she's going to have them now and rule the world. She's going to rule the world. She thinks so. She thinks that she will. Maeve explains that when they met, they were both so broken that they couldn't recognize each other, which is so horrible. Like, let me just cry a little bit. They're both so horrible that they didn't know. But Aelin already knew because, of course, she knows everything.
Right. And again, she hid it because she hides it.
But in this case, Rowan also knew and was hiding it because he didn't want to believe it. So they were both.
I think he was in denial. It's different than for me.
He was in denial.
She knew. He suspected, but he was like, no, it's not possible. I can't even go there again, because like the same way he freaked out when he thought she was pregnant when she puked her guts up in the thing. He was like, I have to come to terms with this. This is way too much, you know. So
go ahead, Jackie.
This is a trait that, like, I love Island, but this is a trait that actually is starting to get on my nerves a little bit, her not telling her inner circle, because it's like, okay, we understand you've gone through hell and your life has sucked. We get it. But these people love you, and Rowan loves you, and why are you not talking to these people? Like, they are literally following you to the ends of the earth. Why aren't you talking? Like, it's starting to get to a point where it's like, lady, you need to grow up and realize you are a queen and you need to talk to your people.
That's where we said this, like, before you were able to jump. Like, I believe that that's a Sarah J. Maas trait
Yes.
she's putting on to Aelin.
Yes.
I don't believe that Aelin wouldn't tell people.
I agree.
I believe that because Sarah J. Maas wants to do reveals, Aelin knows stuff and we don't know. And I don't like that
I don't either.
she does that. Because, I mean, me personally, like the way Aelin trusts her people, I don't believe she wouldn't tell.
Yeah. I agree.
You know, I don't believe she wouldn't tell. So that's why for me, especially on this reread, it doesn't bug me because I'm like, Aelin,
this is Sarah J. Maas. This is just her doing these dramatic reveals and blah, blah, blah.
Right? Like, I believe that she wouldn't tell Rowan that she was going to leave Lysandra as her. Like, because he would flip his, like, whatever. But the other things about, like, allies and about, like she would be telling
I don't believe that. Yeah.
I don't know. That's my personal canon, is that that's Sarah J. Maas deciding people don't tell stuff, because I don't believe that.
Yeah. No, it makes sense the way she writes her characters. That's what's frustrating, is because she writes a very trusting character, but at the same time she's not. And I'm like,
yes, Karen.
Dude, what?
Yeah. The only other reason that I like say it is that, or that it could be, is because she did things alone and she was betrayed before. And that works up till the point of Heir of Fire for me. Once her and Rowan have bonded, now she's telling him stuff. Yes. You know, like, I believe up through that point that she wouldn't tell people because of what happens in the Assassin's Blade stuff. Mm-hmm. But once she's Aelin and she has her court, like when we're at the end of it and she's with her court, like she would be telling them stuff. So anyway, it's a main issue people have, and I don't like it because it makes people not like Aelin. And I think it's a Sarah J. Maas thing doing that to Aelin.
Doing that too, yes, absolutely.
Personal opinion. So
I agree.
So anyway, okay. So then Aelin makes a trade to save a lead. Aelin subjects herself to being beaten into a bloody pulp. She's able to slip the keys into Manon's pocket as she's taken, an iron mask put on, iron chains put on, and she's put in the iron box and taken away before Rowan gets there, which let's just have a moment of silence for my poor baby showing up. And then we get like the revelations that like Elide has, and she's like, I'm your mate, and Lysandra's going to pretend to be me. And oh yeah, if you have kids with Adian, then our babies will look the same. So you can do that. Thanks, Aelin. That's nice.
I know, right?
That's a lot to swallow.
It is a lot to swallow. And then almost done. Let me get through these and then we'll talk. And so yeah, Elide is like, oh yeah. So Manon, not Manon. I'm sorry, getting all the names. Maeve strips both Gabriel and Lorcan of everything, but she keeps Fenris, makes him come with. Lorcan. What's the revelation that really kills it? Oh, is it just that he was with Maeve? That's why Elide's mad?
He was the one who summoned Maeve to come, and he says
the glass of power summoned Maeve.
Yes.
And put them all in danger. And he says he was doing it to protect Maeve. And so you were like, where are your loyalties? But we always knew what we thought he was
also
changing.
Like, we knew where his loyalties were. Elide did not.
Yeah.
So we find out that. Then we find out another secret marriage. Rowan and Aelin got secretly married. So that makes Rowan the king in her stead. And so he refuses to accept that. So he's going to leave. And so Lysandra's going to have to pretend to be Aelin. Well, he goes to find the real Aelin. So when we get to the end of this, we have Galen Ash River. Let's make everything confusing. We have an Aelin and a Galen. Ash River, who's the crown prince, shows up.
All the names sound familiar in this book.
They do.
Right?
It's hard.
Because he remembers Evelyn Ash River, who is that's Aelin's mom. Who's Evelyn? Is Evelyn her mom?
I thought that was Adian's mom.
Adian's mom. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's Adian's.
Could be. That's totally fine. Gonna keep going here.
We need a family tree.
I know. Oh my god.
We need a map and a family tree in these books.
So they've never forgotten her. Then we have the people coming from the assassins in the Red Desert. We have them showing up. So they owe a life debt. Manon says that they owe a life debt. So everybody showed up to help. And then Lysandra pretends to be Aelin and says that she's sending Rowan to go retrieve something, which is actually Aelin, of course. So we have Elide decides to go with. So Elide, Rowan, Gavriel, and Lorcan are going to go try to get Aelin. And then Dorian goes with Manon and the witches to try to find the lost Krakens to ally with them. Yes. And then Adian is staying with Lysandra to basically make her miserable because he's being a little prick. But he's supposed to stay there as like Aelin's like cousin and guard. So
general,
sorry that I had to just push through that, but I want us to be able to talk about everything we were feeling. So
a lot of stuff. Lot of moving pieces.
Yeah. The whippings, I skip it every time. Like I lived through it once. I will never live through that pain again. I literally hate Maeve so much that I barely make it through when she's talking because I despise her so much. Like this is the like literally I was listening to the audio and I was like, I don't need to listen to her voice. So that's why I don't remember some of the stuff she says because I literally can't listen to it. It's like episode 15 of Outlander. I'll never watch it again. I know what happens. I'll never watch it again in my lifetime. Anyway, sorry, side note. That's how much I hate Maeve. Hate her so much. But
I think the feeling is mutual. I don't like Maeve either. So
okay. Also, people watching, I'm sorry that I was talking all that time. So people are just like, I cry every time. Absolutely. Crawls after what E thought. Maeve. What?
Oh, she's saying because when Lorcan crawls after being stripped of everything.
That's right. But it freaking hurts Elide. She literally like ripped his blood bond out. Like that hurts.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's been loyal to her for a very long time. Like
to me. Yeah.
He may be falling for you. I mean, we skipped over. They did have some smoochies in this one. And then betrayal. So there was some smoochies.
Yeah. I enjoyed that moment.
About Lorcan, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So anyway, so much stuff. I'm sure you even missed it, but I'm proud of myself that we're only at an hour and a half with this, and now we can kind of jump in. So were there any things? Okay, what's the standouts to you just in this book? And then where are some of the connections we're noticing? Let's spend some time on that. So what are we feeling? Just go.
I have a connection.
Go ahead, Jackie.
I have a connection. I don't know if it actually is a connection.
Yeah.
But when I was reading this, they kept talking about the red cape that Manon wears, right?
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, in A Court of Mist and Fury, Azriel and Castiel have the red and blue things that control their power.
Somethings?
Yes. And there's something blue else. There was something blue. I can't remember what the other blue thing was. But it's constantly referenced back and forth. So I'm like, is there something with the colors? Because then you have the Crescent City series where the first book is red and the second book is blue.
Oh, nice.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is
yeah. So I was like, it's really small and minute. Maybe they're just her favorite colors. I don't know. But like, I just thought it was kind of interesting that you pick those colors on the color wheel.
I think colors are very, like, colors are always going to be a very specific. Colors and numbers are usually always a specific thing. Yeah. I think what Carrie said, very true. The fact that the gods were stuck here and they couldn't leave. We wanted to go another, like that to me is the big, like that one. Yeah. All the stuff that is being told to Elena by these gods who couldn't leave. It's like, oh. And then I had said this earlier, like Aelin has to like burrow into her power.
Yes.
And then she can burst up. And
yes.
Again, we haven't really got to that. But in Crescent City, there's also someone who like every being to get their powers has to do something like that.
Burrow and then
Yeah. And so that's something that's sticking out to me, which again, I know we're not to it yet, but that really sticks out to me.
And also, don't you think, is it Fenris that's the one who winnows, right? He's the one
Yes.
Right?
I immediately thought that.
Yeah.
Immediately saw that one.
Because the description is very similar to winnowing. It's like cracks in the world.
Exactly.
Like it travels through these.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how, like, Reese explains it as like you like fold it, right? He says you like fold it and step in and come out at the other side.
Yep.
The other thing, we talked about this when we were talking about Aelin's powers, but the powers that she's getting, you know, it reminds me a lot of like when we start to see Feyre's different powers
Yeah.
come out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, obviously, they can people can transform into stuff. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's just similarities in powers, and obviously, we know that fire is her like main thing. But I mean, we see like, you know, with like the wind and the like cold and the ice that Rowan has,
Right.
mixed with like, you know, Aelin being able to do that, and like Sandra being able to be like she's a shapeshifter. So it's like all these different powers that these Fae have are very like parallel to like the different courts that we see.
That's right.
And you know, is there something with like Lysandra's going to be given land, and like, you know, Aelin and Rowan will have her there? Like, we're not there yet. We don't know everyone's there, but could it be that there will be like 8 of them or 7 of them who all get a place to rule, and they'll maybe each have a different power? I don't know. I'm reaching real far with this one.
There's another common one, wolves. I don't know if you guys caught up, but wolves, because Feyre brings the water wolves. She turns them into wolves. She can turn them into any creature she wants, but she turns them into wolves.
Yeah.
And then you have, is it Fenrir that turns into a wolf?
Yeah.
And then Lysandra, her first big, no, that was a snow panther. Never mind. Her first big transformation.
Well, and Adian is known as like the wolf of the north.
Yeah, the lone wolf. Yeah. And so like there's a common theme with wolves.
Yeah.
And Tamlin was sending his guards out as wolves.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the wolf thing? Now, again, first time reader, so maybe that is already something that's going to come later on, but like that's something else I picked up was there's a lot of wolves.
You know, the thing I sort of honed in on when they were in the mirror and they were having conversations with those beings that were talking about that it was going to be their job to kind of trap Erewhon and take him over to their world and destroy them. But what I noticed is that when they talked about their voices, so for example, one of them, it said it spoke with a voice of steel, shields, and arrows. And another one spoke with like death and darkness, and somebody else spoke with like gold and something. And it almost made me wonder if these different beings are responsible for the different types of Fae. So they're the descendants of their power. So like if I am of darkness and, you know, cold and whatever, does like Rhysand's power and Rowan's power descend from me as like being a god of that particular power? Because she made a point to say that each one of them, it seemed like there were 5 different ones, and they all spoke with a different sort of a description and a different sort of power. And it seemed to me that they all needed to come together and combine that in order to destroy the blog and to destroy the Blog King. And I thought that was really relevant because she goes on and on for 2 pages talking about that in that chapter when they're there. So I think we should go back and take a look at that and pay attention to what that means.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
I didn't catch that one at all. Like never dawned on me. That's really good.
I didn't either.
I think it's very interesting too that in ACOTAR we do see certain creatures, but most of the big scary ones, they are all like locked away. You know, like they're all in the prison or they've been banished somewhere else. They're not there, you know. And in this one, we have all these different ones being manipulated by bad people, you know. So I don't know. I mean, I've always said, like, I think the biggest connections that we see come through those parts of ACOTAR, like what is in that prison, where did Amryn come from, you know, what kind of being was she before, you know, like what, like where, you know, like who was she?
Yeah, I have some more like pretty big connections that I'm thinking between these 2 series. And by the way, these have nothing to do with future books because, to be quite honest, I have forgotten most of what happened in those books. So like
I can barely hold on to these.
We're safe. Like, you're all safe. This is just from reading Empire of Storms that I was like making connections. So I'm seeing some similarities between the lock and the 3 word keys and the cauldron and the Book of Breathings.
Yes.
So when we're talking about this chest that the lock was supposed to be in, the Book of Breathings was also in a chest in a waterlogged place.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting connection. And also 3 word keys, aren't there 3 cauldron feet?
Yes.
And then
there are.
Three parts. Yeah.
So that's like the biggest connection that I'm like thinking about between these two series.
Well, we also clocked it in the previous one that like the Book of Breathings could speak to them, and like I can't remember. It wasn't the word key, but one of the things can like it's sentient. Maybe it is one of the word keys because she like felt like it didn't Alid feel something off of it.
He was feeling it. Yeah.
Like
was
that
talking
was
to her.
We clocked that in Queen of Shadows because that's something that we saw in the Book of Breathings where it was talking and the same thing. So it's like that level of like power where the thing, the item has like a job or like a thing, like it's imbued with a certain amount of sentience.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah.
And then something else I wanted to bring up, a connection between these two series that I'm seeing. Now this may be like way out of left field, but I've been looking at the maps of the two.
Oh yeah. Always look at the map, babe. Always.
And I have this like maybe crazy theory that Aurelia, which is this massive land that all of these countries are on, becomes Prythian and Highburn through like erosion and like natural or magical disasters.
It's literally this takes place before ACOTAR?
Well, we don't know.
I'm just saying, I'm just throwing this out there that like I'm suspicious of that. And also because the landmass, well, we don't get a map of Wendlin, but the landmass where Wendlin is, it reminds me a lot of the continent where like the mortal queens are, and like so that's my
I think
it's this part, it's that second half. It's this part, like is right when you like break it down and look at it.
We very suspiciously don't get to see that. Like I actually have like it was a pre-order reward for Kingdom of Ash, I think that I got. I have a full color. No, it wasn't Kingdom of Ash. It was for Wings and Ruin because it's an ACOTAR map. I have a full color map of Prythian and that it's in my bedroom. Like I have a full color map that I got.
Yeah.
And the way that it's broken up. And that's what I mean about like my theory is that it's like land that people are given and then like their descendants does it become this, or is it parallel stuff so that we'll all be able to like exist at the same time?
So like
that's a thing that like I'm hoping for because of something that happens in Kingdom of Ash and Wings and Ruin, where I think it's the same time. And then because Sarah SJM was just on an interview where she recalled that certain thing. And I was like, oh, I forgot about it. So I'm trying to not say it, but like, I think they're happening. So that's why I think like, are we all parallel times or will it be time travel? Like what is it? I said, like, are we parallel universes or are we parallel time? Like, did we travel time or did we travel space or did we travel both? That's what I don't know. Yes. And that's the purpose of this for me is I'm like, what is it?
It's one of those things that like, as I'm reading them, I keep that in the back of my mind because I'm always trying to figure out in fantasy books, yes, it's fantasy. So they take implements from all different types of historical time periods and kind of mesh them together. But I'm trying to figure out the one that it's really focused in. And these two seem so parallel in like their clothing design, their travel formations, and like just all these little nuances, like Alid when she started her period. Okay, so she had to go get rags and shirts, strips. So there was no modern anything. There's no modern thing in ACOTAR either. So I'm like, okay, so we're like pre all of that, obviously. And then you have the clothing, but then you have like how their free use of money in this one compared to in ACOTAR. You don't really talk. I don't really remember a lot of talk about money, but in this one you have a lot of talk about gold and money and stuff. So there's a currency. So there's some kind of currency-based system. So I'm trying to very hard figure out kind of where the genre of time frame is for these books.
Yeah. Well, in Crescent City,
it throws you off because it seems so modern, you know?
Yeah, right. We thought that was an urban fantasy, almost. You know, like when you start it, you're like, "Wow, she read this in urban fantasy," and it's like, well, we'll see.
Yeah. So I do. Oh, sorry. I was
nope,
just gonna,
you go. I never know the word key shit. So.
Oh, the word key stuff. Yeah, we know what it was. We don't know what it is now. The third word key, because it is spelled out at the end of this book during like the whole. I think it's during the whole mirror scene. Is when it's spelled out what the 3 word keys were in her time, in Elena's time period.
Yeah.
And what Gavin did with them. So we don't know what the third one is now. We do not know.
Because it said hiding the third and final key in Mala's temple and then descending into the fiery abyss for eternity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did want to bring up a couple things about Lorcan, some like theory things. So I am on page 403.
Okay.
And speaking of maps and geography and all this stuff, Lorcan brings up, he says he'd seen a kingdom perhaps 300 years ago that relied on barges to sail its goods from one end to another. Its name eluded him, lost to the catacombs of his memory. Lorcan wondered if it still existed, tucked away between 2 mountain ranges on the other side of the world.
Right.
Is there anything from ACOTAR, 2 mountain thing, like 2 mountain ranges?
Are you talking in between the night court and everything?
Yeah, but they don't trade outside.
Yeah.
Because then people would know about them. But it could have been before.
Yeah.
Because 200 years ago.
They could have traded. Hold on. They could have traded before Amarantha.
Yeah.
Because he only locked down that place after that.
Yeah.
So it could have been before. Because they were only locked down for 50 years. You know.
Right.
So when we talk about 2 mountains and training outside, didn't they, what was the last, help me guys, what was the last book that Sarah wrote? The Flames, what was the last one that she wrote for?
Before this?
Yeah.
Silver Flames.
Silver Flames. So in Silver Flames, when she went to go with Cassian and they were training, what is Cassian and Azrael, or what are they called? They're called
Illyrian.
When she went to the Illyrian camp. Isn't that a camp? Wasn't that tucked between 2 mountains, right? No?
I mean, we don't have to talk about it in the future. I mean, like, it happened. Like, we can talk about it in Mist and Fury. Like, we don't gotta, like,
yeah, because it's
in between 2 mountain ranges. Like, we know that Valaris is the place.
But
I see what you mean.
Because she was saying that, like,
it was very successful. It was like that. That's what I'm saying. Like, we don't have to look to Silver Flames. Like, it was happening back.
Right. And I'm thinking the barges comment that he's making about trade and stuff, isn't that what the Summer Court does?
It was kept secret.
Don't they
They are sanctioned on the water.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was for 500. I thought it was for 50 while he's hidden. Because people knew about Valaris. He ripped it from everyone's mind when she took him under the mountain.
Oh.
Or am I totally missing something, Benmar? Because
I have to think about that.
Yeah, people knew.
Yeah.
Like people knew that it was there. He ripped it from every person's mind who knew of it outside of his people when he went under.
Yes.
Made him get captured. It made him get captured because he used his last minutes to do that.
To keep it secret. Yeah.
So, but even if it was secret for this long, like, that's what we don't know about the time. Like, we don't know about the time. You know, so it could have been before it was, or it could have been after. It could be after people now know. And that's where it all comes back to, like, I know these are connected somehow. Whether it's straight up is like we're just not seeing the whole map, whether it is this map like changes because of things, or whether like it's a different world totally. You know, like, that's what I don't know. Candace, I could totally be right. But my point is like people knew and they were getting stuff in. So
yes.
What brought, in this particular, do you remember, Rachel, in this scene, what made Lorcan bring this up? What was he thinking about?
They were getting ready to go on the barge
Yeah.
Him in the lead, and he was just thinking, he's like, oh, the barges, this reminds me of this kingdom.
Which is very conspicuous that she put that in there, because why did he have to remember it? So that's why it's smart that you picked it out, because like, why is he, it sounds like he's an old timer being like, oh, I remember
back in my day.
Like, why is he remembering boats? Boats exist now.
Right.
What's he talking about?
This kingdom like did all of their business via barges.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great catch. I did not catch that, and that's brilliant.
That has to mean something. It has to be,
because it's very conspicuous that he remembered. I remember it on the other.
There were like 3 sentences about this kingdom that. Yeah.
Right. But no more about like which type of people. Was this fae or was it human or like
humans? Yeah.
So I feel like Lorcan doesn't give a shit about the human world except so I assume it is fae, but I don't know. But again, the connection I'm thinking of that happens at the same time, we don't see it until Kingdom of Ash. But there's a very specific thing that Sarah put where she has ACOTAR in it.
Yes.
And those were the like definitive, like we know it's connected. But again,
do you think that was the first time she did the connection, or
no?
That you think she had it in? You think she had it in her mind when she started writing ACOTAR to start connecting her previous series?
Well, what do you think?
I think she did. Personally,
that's,
from the first time
that's
reader,
the whole purpose. So, I mean, what do you think?
That's why I'm bringing this
up. Like, from the first time, for a first-time reader, when I read ACOTAR, what did I just read? What book was before ACOTAR?
Air of Fire.
Air of Fire. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
Air of Fire, yep.
I had just been introduced to like her version of fairies at this point, like hardcore her version of fairies.
Yep.
And the similarities in the fairies, just like, I don't read a lot of fairy books. I didn't. And now I'm going to, because these are awesome. But yes, convert. Here you go. Anyway, so, but like, I saw a lot of similarities in the fairies, but I just chalked it up to, as a first time reader, that was just her experience. And that's why she was like, not regurgitating, but reusing same kind of triggers. But as I started reading the series, like, it's the red and blue thing. Like, there's something about it, because it's so definitive, because it's brought up in A Court of Mist and Fury, I think almost 4 or 5 times. It's referenced, the blue and red stones. And then she keeps bringing up this cape. I understand why the cape. I got, that reveal was awesome, by the way. That was what? I lost it on that review. I was like, oh crap. But like, it was just, there kept being this blue and red combo. And I'm just like, you can't like these 2 colors that freaking much to want to reuse them over and over. There's something. And then I happen to glance over at my bookshelf, and Crescent City is right there, and it's red and blue, and it just stuck. Yeah. I'm like, okay, so I'm now looking for, like, is there another color that she's referenced before that might be like the 3rd book coming out? I don't know.
I think it's gonna be gold.
You think it's gonna be gold?
Oh, I could see that.
I think it's gonna be gold. Well, because golden is a huge gold is a huge thing in all of these. So that's what I think, especially because it's like Crescent City and it's like sun and moon stuff. And also we're going to be dealing with, because what's the next one going to be?
Wings and Ruin.
We have Wings and Ruin and Tower of Dawn.
No. I mean the next Crescent City book.
Oh, I don't know.
Like, we've got to be dealing with the angels and shit soon. Like, I think it's going to be golden is what I think.
Yeah. But, I do have one last connection that I want us to like look at going into Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash.
Yeah.
With Lorcan and Maeve. I don't remember, so this is not a spoiler. This is just a theory. I think there's an interesting connection between the 2 of them, because their power feels very similar, and I think there's a reason why she laughed in his face when he offered to be her lover.
You think they're related?
Yeah. I think there's something.
I mean, it would make sense, because we know there's like the 3 bloodlines.
Yeah.
And we know who Aelin's is and Rowan's is, and
their power is like the same. It feels like pretty much the same to me.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Why else would he laugh? Like, it's almost like that's a ludicrous slat. You know what I mean?
Fire red, ice blue. Yeah, that's another combo right there too.
Cassian definitely is the fiery one.
Yeah.
So that's good. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, lots of good things. Oh, Jackie, we didn't get to ask you. What were some of your like standout moments from it? You go ahead.
Okay, so
we got to gush about all our characters already. So you
well, I got my moment. So that's a standout moment with Rowan and Island. Like, I liked it, but I actually really,
got a couple moments.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. But the standout moment for those moments was actually right after it was almost, it was a tease, and I thought it was hilarious because the way Sarah did it is they come out of the window and they're against a chimney. And she said, well, you said you wouldn't take me against a tree the first time. How about a chimney? And they start fooling around. And then it cuts to another chapter. I'm like, okay, right, whatever, it's fine. I was a little annoyed by that. I'm like, you're not going to do a fade to black scene on me right now. Like, that's annoying. But then we get into the chapter and I find out that he fell asleep after she went and primped and pampered and everything. And I was like, oh. That was a standout moment for this relationship because it was just so, okay, they're fae. They're not human. But it was such a humanist moment in this book of all this craziness. I was like, yes, I love that. That was fantastic. That made my top 10 favorite moments of the book because it was just something that didn't need to even be there, but it was great. It's like, he came out, he was asleep.
Yeah.
He's just like every other guy. He's perfect, but he's just like every other guy.
Well, also, we talked about, that he washes her clothes and gets her a bath and is just so, feral but sweet at the same time.
Yes. I liked that thing. I enjoyed that a lot. I really enjoyed that scene a lot. I like the fact that Lee didn't give a shit about him in the beginning. She's like, I'm just going to keep doing my thing.
Yeah.
And forget that you're this all-powerful fairy. Be like, cool, you can do stuff with knives. I don't care.
I mean, Elite's she's had so much shit happen. That's
she
where
is such a badass, though.
She has been so mistreated and abused all this time. And she knows that she can make it to she knows Aylin's alive now, that there's actually hope. She has this goal, so she's like, no one's getting in my way. If I have to limp my way across this country, I will. And that he heals her limp all the time, just constantly. And she knows something happened to him when her limp comes back, that moment where when he gets
I like the scene where she goes off and she kills she was almost captured by Vernon and she goes to stab herself and then he stops her and then this bloodlust takes over her and she's like, fuck you, dude, I am gonna cut all your heads off. And I was like, I just picture Lorca standing in the corner and be like,
oh yeah,
just standing there.
I promise I will lay this down. I did not know the term grovel before I met Lorca. Because you are going to see one of the most epic grovels ever laid down. And you've not seen the last of Elite's heroine moments. She has one of my favorites in Kingdom of Ash. It lives rent-free 5 years later.
Yes.
It's right here. Yes. I can picture it. It's fantastic. We have so many good things to come. But
something I am liking though, about Dorian. And when I was reading this, I was like, Dorian seems a little bit more dominant and a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more meaner in this book than in his previous installments, before the Volg or that. How do you ever say it?
You're fine.
Volg.
Yeah.
So I remember him being, cocky, arrogant. He can get whatever he wants. But with Selena, he was still kind of sweet, arrogant, and with Manon, he's just like, I'm gonna do what I want. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I don't care. And I just was like, are you taking tips from somebody? Because where the fuck come from, dude? I like you. I'm Team Dorian now. Go for it. Yes.
Well, it's funny because Dorian never could have handled a Manon at the beginning of this season.
No.
He so could not. But then he's in the room and when but he's drunk, but he's like, we're gonna fool around, but like, I'm not letting you go. So like, we can fool around, but like, not letting you out. Like, and Manon's just like,
to good use, thanks.
Right, Manon's just like, all right, Princeling, I still want to fuck you. Come over here. I
like all the relationships that she's creating in them. I think that's great. And
false. We have 2 books to go, my friend. Don't we?
Maybe they mean like one book in this like timeline when you think about it, because Tower of Dawn is all about different people.
Yeah.
Let's not brush it off. Tower of Dawn's got some serious revelations to come that are vital to it.
I like Tower of Dawn. I know that's not people's favorite book, but I liked it.
What do you mean by different people?
It's your favorite book.
It's following Kale and Nesrin.
Yeah.
Mainly.
Didn't you notice your baby Kale's gone?
Yeah, I noticed that. I did. I was just not going to mention it because it pissed me off a while ago. So he's in timeout. It was like, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. Okay, we're wrapping this up now. Because next we're going to Wings of Ruin, and then Tower of Dawn, and then we're doing the little novella for ACOTAR, and then we'll get to Kingdom of Ash. So y'all got a ways to go.
Girl.
Here to torture you now, but that's okay. We have fun stuff to go. But like, I'm so excited to read Tower of Dawn this time.
Me too.
It's been so long, and I'm ready to fully embrace that book because I also want to see what connections there are in this one that like we like haven't seen, because like with this court that has all these siblings that we're going to meet and like all their different, like there's a lot of stuff we can gain from that book. And
absolutely.
I like that for so many people, it doesn't have to be in like a disappointment, because for so many of us, like I wasn't disappointed when I finished, but I was like disappointed when I started, but I was not disappointed when I finished. But it's because I was waiting years in between the books. And so I was like, you left me with her in a box. I don't care that he's in a wheelchair right now. Okay. I know that's sad, but why is she in a box? Like it was very traumatic for me. You do not want to skip, Carrie. Shut your mouth. You do not. You do not want to.
Jen, when did you start reading the series? Like, what book did you?
Was it
Empire of Thorns?
Yes, it had just come out, and I watched a review for that one, and I was like, oh, I have to start reading these because I had only read ACOTAR 1 and 2.
Okay.
And I had tried Throne of Glass like legit 4 times, and I was like, this is dumb. After reading ACOMAF, trying to read it and not like where it was going. But then I saw a review for Empire. Like, I love spoilers. Literally, Christine Riccio explained the sex on the beach, and I was like,
oh my
god! I read 4.5 books to get to sex on the beach. Yes, I did. And then it was in a box, and I was like, fuck. And then Tower of Dawn came out, and I was like, really? But then I loved it.
Yeah.
This was a question I wanted to ask because I loved when Rhys and Feyre hooked up. It was one of my favorites. I loved it. Like, roll up in a little ball, shaking Jello Jackie. It was great. I was Jello Jackie for this scene. I want to know from the people who have read these books before on a reread, which one do you remember liking the most first? And then on your reread, is it still the same answer? Because I personally liked Feyre and Rhys's hookup, and I only had a book to build that hookup. And I've had 3 to build this one.
But it's more satisfying in ACOTAR, because it's like it's only Rhys and Feyre talking. Like, it's in her head. We've seen the sexual tension. We've seen her denying it all this time. Aelin and Rowan, they just haven't had time to get together. They've been going to get together since whatever. You know, it was more of like cock blocking happening.
Agreed.
Back, whereas in ACOMAF, Feyre is like in love with somebody else at the beginning. So like, I want her to get with Rhys, but if she gets with him too quickly, then we've like, well, was she ever in love with him? You know, like, even though I'm like, it's obvious what's going on here. Let's make it happen. So I don't know. For me, ACOMAF is more satisfying, and every time I reread it, it's even more satisfying because I see I know what Reese is having to do. Like, I know what he's been through and what's led us to this. And like this, it's an emotional thing. Whereas like Rowan and Aelin, like, I'm just not as emotionally invested in them, even though I love them. Like, I'm not invested to the same level.
See, I feel the same way, and I did not think I was going to because of the fact that I had 2 previous books to build that moment, to build that intimacy, that moment. And I'm like, I had it in one. So it just showed me the level of writing for Sarah between those books and like
well,
her
how many pages are Aelin and Rowan together though? Over the
and we have to think about the focus of these 2 series. ACOTAR to me is fantasy romance.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, Throne of Glass is fantasy with some really great romances thrown in.
Yeah.
So
there's like 4 by the end. There's literally 4 couples. Like there's 4 couples you get to see together.
So it makes sense that like ACOMAF would be the more satisfying one because ACOMAF is like mostly about their relationship,
the romance.
Whereas in Empire Storms, like there are so many things going on. So when the sex on the beach happens, I was like, oh yeah, like
there's a romance in here.
Like wow, this is awesome.
No, I felt the same. That's the thing, I felt the same way, and I didn't think it was very shocking. After I read that scene, I stopped. And I was like, I mean, that was great. Don't get me wrong, that was yes, all the yes, but I was just like, I don't feel as like as I was in that first one.
It like, I mean, again, like it wasn't a first person sex scene, and it also doesn't use the same descriptors because she does still write this that it could pass for like upper YA. Like, I mean, we fully know what's happening. Like forms are, but she doesn't say like the C word or like we don't say them. We use the more elusive words for it. Whereas like she calls it a cock in the other one. Like she calls it.
There's different language, different writing.
You know, like
the Dorian Manon scene.
Yeah, that's true. Those are gonna get.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
There was a lot of super sexy fun times in this one, and I was down for all of them.
And to be honest, though, like the difference being of how much I love this series is that if she had done like Fade to Black with these, I would still be as invested in them. I would be sad, but like I would still be just as invested if we got all the way to like, and then they made love all night and like they skipped it. I would still be like, we're going, you know. Whereas like if she Fade to Black on me after the sexual tension of that one, I would have been like, bitch, I hate you. What do you
exactly.
So I think that's the difference. Like I'm like, I don't think the content in this is fully YA, like the fighting, the death, the stuff. So great. But I understand why like the sex stays at like a 2 spice for the description. Whereas in like ACOTAR and, you know, once we get to Silver Flames, like, that book is many pages of talk in there. So anyway,
not read it yet.
Anyway, all right. For that, I love that devolving the steps. But anyway, thank you, the friends who made it through this. I know that we're getting, as we get further in, we have less people engaged in this. I will be very impressed with who holds on. Also, this is a Wednesday night, which I know is difficult for people to make it to. The coming one is, technically it's for the September one, but it's on October 1st because I like to put these at the very end of a month if I can, and September ends on the whatever. So there's 2 October ones. I will be hosting the next 3 of these. They're all with me here. So I'll have Wings and Ruin is the next one, and it's on October 1st.
And I'm signed up for that one, and I'll be there for the whole thing.
And again, like, see, I think the difference is that we were able to do characters in this because it's 3rd person point of view. And with Wings and Ruin, like, we have to go chronologically. Feyre is chronological. So expect a long one for that one as well. But we'll give you.
Well, it's a Saturday, so.
Right. And I'm moving that one to, like, it's going to be at 5 on the Saturday.
Okay.
So
I got to write that down.
Telling people that's what my plan is because I have to redo the art for this because I took over for some people. So the next couple, I'm going to try to have them start at 5 so that we can, like, be done by a 7 instead of, you know, or if we're going late for us, for people on the East Coast, we're not going till midnight for some of these. But thank you, my friends. This is so much fun. This is literally my favorite part of the month to do this. So y'all who show up, and thank you in the comments for coming, even when we just end up rambling the whole time. I love you all so much. And we will see you for the next one, okay? Good night.